Grief is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of a new chapter. Welcome to the Empower Grief Journey podcast. I'm your host, Chris Mamoni, and I'm the founder of the Empower Grief Journey coaching and podcast platform. This podcast is your dedicated space for healing and transformation. Each episode will bring real conversations from people around the world who have navigated grief and discovered the strength to create new and inspired beginnings. You'll discover how to walk from loss to empowerment through powerful storytelling and actionable insights that will guide you towards a future filled with courage and hope. Today, I'm very excited to bring you guys Cedric Bertelli. He's the founder and director of Emotional Health Institute and co-developer of Emotional Resolution. He has spent over a decade teaching individuals and professionals how to resolve debilitating emotional patterns through the body's natural capacity for healing. Cedric's work bridges neuroscience, interception, practical application, making lasting emotional well-being accessible worldwide. I'm excited for him to be on the show today, guys, because he's got a very unique perspective on grief and all of the emotions we experience as we're going through grief and learning how to heal from the losses that we've gone through. So without further ado, Cedric, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Likewise. And to get us going, tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I'm currently in Oakland, California. I come from a small village in France, in the south of France. My first career was in hospitality business. I work in hotels with the Ritz-Carlton hotels. I was first a chef, then a director of restaurant, director of food and beverage. Up until 2009, I was 29 years old, and then I quit and start studying what I'm doing now, which is, I guess you can call it somatic therapy, basically how to approach emotions not only through the intellect but also through the body, to see the body as a whole, brain included, but not only focus on the brain. And after that, after studying for a couple of years in France, I came back to the US and started my own practice and starting developing EMRES, emotional resolution, in collaboration with other people. And 2019, we opened the Emotional Health Institute here in the US, in France, and in Japan. And through the institute, which is a nonprofit, we teach EMRES to doctors, therapists, coaches, HR professionals, and of course, we offer a network of practitioners that can support others, clients with EMRES.
That's a really beautiful story, Cedric. And I love how you went from the restaurant industry into neuroscience and somatic healing and into emotional work with people. That's such a radical career shift. But after talking to you the first time, I saw that it's really your passion. I mean, you're very, very intelligent about learning how we can navigate emotions a bit better. Because I think something that a lot of us who go through grief and a lot of us who go through life, by the way, are told these outdated ways of saying control our emotions or don't feel this certain way or you should feel this. And there's just so much more that goes on to emotions in the body. And I'd love for you to also to share in your own words, what is somatic healing, by the way?
Yeah, but everything you said here is absolutely correct. And the bridge between the restaurant business and what I'm doing now is I mean, working in restaurant, you deal with a lot of emotions. You know, the clients, especially when they're drunk. You know, when they the late night at bar when somebody had too much to drink. You know, they open up, so you have to learn to listen and to manage that. And also when you have a big team, you see that I had about 250 employees, and you see that you don't manage people, you manage their emotions. So very early on, even working in hotels, you could see how emotions are actually creating the dynamics in the workplace, and it's fascinating. So that was kind of like the transition. For your answer for emotional healing, what is it? It's yeah, I have a hard time with healing. I call it emotional health, but the term healing is difficult, right? Because it's basically the root of my work is how one can experience the emotions that are congruent with the current reality. A lot of the time, we are overwhelmed by emotions that are not congruent with what we're experiencing now. We are overwhelmed with emotions that come from the past.
Hmm.
And the work of EMRES, the goal of EMRES is to resolve those debilitating emotional patterns that are not in sync with what we're experiencing now, so that people really feel the emotions that are held by their current life.
So if I understand you correctly, let's just say I'll use myself as an example. I lost my grandfather 5 years ago to terminal cancer. And if that subject gets brought up, there's always emotions that come up around that when we talk about loss or talk about grief or even trauma for that matter. There's always going to be, if that moment gets brought to light or someone asks you about it, those emotions come flying in. And if you're saying this correctly, those are emotions that were in the past in that moment when that thing happened, but in our current present environment, they don't truly exist.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's a beautiful way to say it. We talk about grief in this conversation, and that's such a rich topic, right? We all, or most of us, experience grief. I lost my mother about 10 years ago of suicide, and it is always interesting still now to see the difference in the way that I grieved and other people in my family grieved. For me, so people often come to see me as clients, as they want to resolve grief, and I tell them it's just impossible. You cannot resolve grief, because grief is something that need to be honored, need to be felt, and grief is something that I will qualify as a deep missing of the person that was here, or the relationship, or the pet, but the deep missing of a person, an outlet that was here, and now is not there anymore. So we have all this love that we used to have toward this person, this relationship we used to have, that now has no physical outlet. So for me, what grief is a pure, clean, I would say, a pure and clean feeling of missing someone or something that was there before. Now, what people who come to see me, and what I experience as well in my family, in my own life, what people come to see me for is not to resolve grief. People come to see me because they never had a chance to grieve. Because when somebody passed, or a relationship ended, or a pet passed, for example, uh, they didn't have a chance to experience this raw missing feeling. What they got busy with is experiencing what I will call parasites emotions, which are the anger, the resentment, the guilt, the shame, all those emotions that have to sin with us and our own experience, not really with the relationship that we had, and will have with the person that deceased. You see, so when people come to see me to resolve grief, we never focus on the grief itself. So what is it? What is it that, in a way, did not allow you yet to grieve? What is it that actually did not allow you to feel this clean and pure feeling of missing the other one? And then we're going to go down the list, so to speak. Well, I felt, anger because I didn't have a chance to say that, or this was unresolved. And we're going to start resolving all these emotions, those parasites emotion, that cut us from the clean relationship with the person that departed.
That's a really beautiful way to look at that because I think we do. I know that as humans, we experience an array of emotions throughout the day. I think Tony Robbins said something. We experience like up to 100 emotions a day, different emotions we feel in various situations we're in life. And I do know that when we go through grief and loss, like you brought up, losing your mother to suicide and me losing my grandfather to cancer, now we're in that place of like, well, why did this have to happen? Or could this have been prevented? Or could I have done something? Did I do something wrong? Or did I not get a chance to say whatever it might have been I wanted to say to this person before they passed? What's my life going to look like now? How am I going to be? We get flooded with so many emotions that I like to call uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen. And our life that was kind of going along like this, nice and easy, has now been disrupted. Now all of a sudden it's like what we're used to, like driving down the freeway at 60 miles an hour and we slam on the brakes. It's literally like that. All of a sudden reality shifts,
Yeah.
and I don't think that we're ever really taught how to handle that shift because we're so accustomed to our autopilot of life. We're so accustomed every day to get up in the morning and maybe we get up late. Well, we're used to that. We know what that feels like. But if we were to get up on time or like a half hour early, our bodies would go, "Whoa, wait a second here. This isn't. I'm not used to this." Grief feels a lot like that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. And when we lose someone like this, like your grandfather, like my mom, like it's we're as you said, we're overwhelmed. And we don't take the time to look at things in details. We take this huge wave of emotions, plural, and we let ourselves being swipe by it, which is completely normal at the beginning. And a lot of those emotions are going to be resolving by themselves with time, with conversations, etc. I mean, if we are evolving in a loving and supporting and safe environment, a lot of those emotions that come as a wave when somebody passes will resolve by themselves, but some won't. And the one that don't, that's what MRES is for in a way, and other modalities, of course. But what we do here, yeah.
So, how do you start with people in MRES when they come to you? Are there ways to identify dominant emotions versus those parasite emotions that you were talking about earlier?
Yes, I think it starts with a simple question in this case. It would be like, how have you been feeling since the passing? We have to know that it takes between 2 and 3 months for what we call emotional homeostasis. That means something huge happens, such as the passing of somebody that we're close to. It takes 2 or 3 months for the brain to integrate the information. That means that if somebody is very close to you, it takes 2 or 3 months for the brain to completely integrate the fact that they will not be here anymore. That's why often when somebody passes, we talk about them in the present tense without noticing it. So after 3 months, 2 to 3 months, the brain, in a way, integrate the information that the person is not there anymore. That's your new reality. How do we build our life with this new reality, within this new ecosystem, I would say? So to answer your question, something that I ask clients often is, since the passing, how have you been feeling? How did the passing impact you? How is this passing impact you in your life? And we take the time to look. Well, I'm feeling, and they're gonna voice it. I feel, I feel lonely. I feel guilty. I feel like I don't want to live anymore. I feel like I missed. And we're gonna make a list almost of how they've been feeling, because we know, the client and me, how they should be feeling now. They should be missing, yeah, maybe, but they shouldn't be in constant pain. What create pain? Especially if the passing has been happened a while ago. And we're going to go down the list, so to speak, the guilt, the anger, etc., the victimization, the loneliness, and we're going to do our best to resolve each one of those emotions one after another. So then the person, maybe for the first time, would have a chance to have a sense for grief without the pain on them.
I think a lot of that pain that does happen for people that go through grief is that not a lot of people know how to hold space for somebody and make them feel seen or heard or understood. And I think that's where a lot of where your work comes into play is in that place of feeling seen and heard and understood so that we can not just identify these emotions, but get a better idea of where they're coming from or what they're trying to tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. When actually, when the person will be able to is able to identify those emotions, we're gonna re-trigger this emotion very specifically in the work through actual situation, or through a question I will ask, and the person is gonna feel this emotion right here and right there with me in a session. And how are they gonna feel the emotion? They're gonna feel maybe a sense of the emotion, but an emotion, so to speak, is just a conceptualization of physical sensations in the body. So the way that we work with MRS is we don't stay in the why or the conceptualization or the history of the emotion. We're going to go into the flesh right away. So
Mm.
once the emotions are kind of, we have a map of emotion of that the person realized and they've been feeling. We're going to take one after another and we're going to do our best. We're going to succeed in doing it, re-trigger this emotion, specific emotion, so that the person feel it in their body, so we can resolve it right here and right then during the session. Because you see, every single debilitating emotional pattern is nothing else but an outdated prediction from the brain. And what we do with MRS is to update this prediction.
So that's a really powerful point that you make that our brains are making outward predictions when we experience certain emotions. And I think that's because in a lot of ways, depending on our life path and what kind of things we have experienced, our brain starts to predict that if we hear something a certain way, if we were made to feel a certain way, if we were told something, our brain kind of picks up on that a lot faster than we're able to process. And it's already preempting and saying, okay, well, I heard this phrase or this word or this sentence, and now I'm automatically going to know that it feels like this.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's exactly the way it works. I can tell you in a nutshell how the brain constructs emotion, if you like to.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
love that.
So
Yeah.
we know today how the brain constructs emotion, and this is how we build MRAS from this understanding. So a few things we need to keep in mind. Number one, the brain, as you said earlier, predict constantly, right? The brain, one of the main job of the brain is to predict based on past experiences. That is what keeps us ahead of the game. We can see that, for example, with food. If I'm about to bite a green apple, before even biting the apple, I know exactly what experience I'm about to have. Not only the salivation, I know exactly, I feel in my body the experience that I'm about to have before biting this green apple. My brain predict. It's amazing to see that if you go from a run, you come from a run and you're super thirsty. You're gonna take a bottle of water, you're gonna do a drink, you're gonna drink your water, and at some point you're gonna feel like you're not thirsty anymore. Well, it takes about 30 minutes for the body to integrate the water. That means that as you drink your water, your brain is predicting how much water to need in order to not be dehydrated. Feeling thirsty and not feeling thirsty anymore, it's also a prediction. So that's the first thing. The brain constantly predicts. The second thing we have to keep in mind is that we know today that at the origin of any debilitating emotional pattern, any emotion that keep on coming back, at the origin of them is always an instant of trauma, always. Now, what is a trauma? A trauma is an instant that holds too much stress, physical or emotional, for us to take on at the moment when we experience it. That's it.
Mm.
Something which is too much for us. And what is happening during this instant when we expose to this stress, it's an instant of we're gonna go for an instant of dissociation. And
Mm.
that's important because what create the emotion in the future is not the trauma itself. What create the emotion that we experience today because of a trauma or the instant of dissociation happening during a traumatic event. So I explained a little bit. What you and I right now, and people listening to us, what we are capturing consciously is about 2,000 bits of information per second that is processed at a speed of about 150 miles per hour consciously. So my voice, what you're looking at, the noise around you, that's that. At the same time, our subconscious has a potential to gather 400 billion bits of information per second, processed at a speed of 150,000 miles per hour. The way that the subconscious can grasp this thing is we cannot understand it consciously. It's too much. So now what is happening is during a traumatic instant, during a dissociation happening during a trauma, the prefrontal cortex that is usually used as a filter of information, allowing us to have this conversation, to have a job, to be in society. During this instant of dissociation, the prefrontal cortex shut down. That's the dissociation. That happens as a defense mechanism so we don't suffer too much during the trauma.
Mm.
But when the prefrontal cortex shut down, the subconscious takes over. So now you have no more filter. Imagine a whirlpool opening up outside of yourself, gathering all the information available around you, what you see, what you taste, what you smell, the light, the textures, the temperature. Everything is being recorded by your brain at a very high level, at a very high speed during this instant of dissociation. The subconscious mind also, brain, also record what physical sensations you feel during this instant of dissociation. So it's like a double whirlpool, right? The whirlpool is open out to gather all the information available in a non-linear, non-logical way, and in recording the physical sensation that you feel in your body during this instant of dissociation. In a way, the same way that your brain record what you feel in your body when you have an apple.
That's
Anyway,
No, I love what you just described there because, when I think about any losses that I've gone through in my life, those emotions come back quick. And my body, I always try to tell people when you go through grief or trauma or loss, your body remembers things. It doesn't forget. And so I've gotten asked by people, why am I so grumpy this month? Or I've been in a real bad funk, or I've been feeling X. And I say, well, did something happen to you this month? Either last year, the year before, 5 years before, did something happen? And I'll get oftentimes, oh, somebody died this month, or oh, I lost my job that month. And I say, your body is on a clock right now, and it's actually knowing that at this time in a past life, something happened and it's reacting to that right now. So you might feel fine, by the way, but your subconscious is bringing it to you to say there's something unresolved here. There's an emotion that you need to feel. I've
Absolutely.
also had at work where I've caught on to this through my coaching that our subconscious in many, many ways will protect us, like you alluded to, that if there's something that's very, very painful, very, very hard to deal with, it will dissociate from it and pull it underneath. And it won't take it away fully, but what it will do is when you are in a place where you can handle it, your subconscious will bring it back up to you because it wants to give you the opportunity to learn from it and work through that process at that point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And what you describe here with the person feeling in a funk on that month, it's exactly what it is. It's consciously you don't realize it. But what is happening is there is a stimulus. It can be a month, it can be a light. I remember I'm working with this kid. Every fall, he was falling behind in school. And it was no reason why. But every fall he was sleeping in the dorm in college, and every fall he was falling behind in school. He was feeling depressed and down, and came out to find out that what was creating this depression was the light in the dorm, a specific light that comes at fall. And when the light was in the dorm, it was impacting him in a way that he was feeling completely depressed, impossible to work, impossible to have relationships, etc., etc. Because what you said here is important, Chris. Like these people that feel in a funk in a specific month, or what's happening is if there is a stimulus. It can be a time of the year, it can be a light, it can be a smell. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We don't need to know what it is even. But there is a stimulus, and the brain recognizes stimulus. Basically, the brain recognizes one or several elements happening in your life currently that were present when a trauma happened. And when this is happening, right, when the brain recognizes one or several elements that were present during a specific trauma, your brain is going, or my brain, our brain is going to automatically generate the physical sensations that were present during that trauma that is related to what's happening today. So let me be precise. When the brain recognizes one or several elements present now that were present during a specific trauma, even if it doesn't make any sense, your brain is going to predict instantly what physical sensations you're about to feel based on what was felt during this specific trauma. Those, those physical sensations is what make you say that you're feeling anxious or in a funk or angry. An emotion is purely sensorial, and those sensations are nothing else but a prediction of based on sensation that you felt at some point in your life.
I love that you said that because I've had times in my life, over the last 5 years in particular, that I've gotten anxious just sitting watching TV or sitting at my desk working. And I sit there in my head and I consciously go, I'm safe right now. There is no threat in my room right now. There is no threat in my environment right now. I'm not going to be harmed. I'm not gonna cause any harm. There's nothing going on. Like, what is happening right now? And I love that you said there's always a stimulus around. There's something that triggered this to feel, and your body giving that anxious feeling is something in there trying to deliver a message to you, or your body is situationally saying something in this room right now. It could be the show you're watching, the music you're listening to, the lights, like you said. Something's triggering this to happen. And if we allow ourselves space to process it and say, what's causing me to feel this, not why, but what's causing me to feel this way right now or how am I feeling this way? When we allow ourselves to ask that, I've come to find when we find out what that thing is, or we say like a month of the year for me is September, and I say, this is the month my son passed away. This is a hard month for me. My grief is very heavy in these moments. That anxiety starts to quiet down because you're given acknowledgement to whatever that stimulus is going around. And you're telling your brain, hey, I see you, I feel you, I understand you. I get why this is happening, but we're safe now. We're okay. There's nothing here to be worried about. We can kind of rewire and retrain our brain to respond differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's very important. And then you bring your attention to the body, right? Because in a way, it's like two different languages. There is the cognitive language, which is making sense of things and realizing things and creating almost like a safety to go in the flesh. Once the cognitive is reassured, you've got to go in the flesh. You've got to be intimate, like physically intimate with the physical sensations that you feel in your body. And that's the key, right? There's a difference between emotional resolution, which is what MRES does, and emotional regulation. Emotional regulation is very important because it allows us to feel better. But often, when exposed to a similar stimulus, the emotion is going to come back. And you're going to have to, again, kind of like talk yourself or through or breathe or to bring yourself down. It's useful. But what we can do as well is when we feel in a funk, after we make sure that we're safe and all this, is to feel the sensations in the body. You've got to enter the flesh because this prediction is purely sensorial. It's purely made out of sensations. An emotion is a conceptualization of physical sensations. The prediction happening in the body is purely sensorial. It's called an interoceptive prediction. Interoception are the physical sensations that we're feeling and let us know how we feel. Sad, anxious, angry, horny, hungry, thirsty. All this is interoception. So when we feel in a funk, okay, we assess safety, okay, and then but what sensations am I feeling in my body? What makes me sense that I don't feel well? And then you're gonna start feeling tension, maybe in the chest, the throat. That's what you want to pay attention to. Rough the tension, the sensations in the body, and move all your attention in the body. A prediction, an emotional prediction, takes between 2 and 90 seconds, never more. That means to resolve an emotional difficulty that keep on coming back, it takes between 2 and 90 seconds. This is how long an emotion lasts in the brain. The reason why we keep on feeling an emotion for a long time sometimes, it might be because we keep on thinking about something, and so the emotion keep on being re-triggered, or we're being exposed again and again to the same stimulus, so the emotion keep on being triggered and re-triggered and re-triggered. Or sometimes we feel in a funk for several hours because we build emotion upon emotion. I feel a certain way, then I feel shame about it, or guilt, or resentful. And so it's going to be a cascade of emotion, one after another, happening very quickly, one after another. And the result is we feel in a funk for hours, minutes, hours, or days.
So I do have a question for you about people that have like complex PTSD, for example, where they can get caught in a brain loop constant. And I'm curious from your perspective with MRES, when you see people that are caught in those loops, what are they going through in that moment as far as those emotions are happening for them? And then also, how can people like that break that pattern? Because I have found it's challenging for quite a few people, especially people very fresh in grief, by the way. It's easy to stay in that loop cycle of one bad thought after another, and it's not always easy for us to break out of it and find and I don't say break out like get over it. I just mean get a breath away from it for a second to get ourselves grounded and get ourselves in a place to understand what the emotions are saying.
Yeah, it's a great question. Complex PTSD is a bit like chronic depression as well, in a way, or chronic anxiety. We have to take the time. It's like a huge cake or like a suitcase full of dirty clothes. And when it comes upon us, we have this huge suitcase full of dirty clothes. And so we don't know what to do with it. We got to take the time to open the suitcase and try to take one clothes after another. So if somebody comes to see us with complex PTSD, I will ask, tell me, what do you mean by complex PTSD? Because my PTSD or my depression is going to be very different from yours. So tell me how it impacts your life pragmatically. Well, I cannot get out of my house anymore. It's kind of like agoraphobia. I don't feel any energy. I keep on thinking those thoughts. I keep on thinking these thoughts. Okay, so we're gonna put them on the paper, right? We're gonna make a list again to kind of like untangle this mass of things that keep on coming. It's kind of we could call that a little bit of a mind fuck, right? It's constantly there, and you can breathe. You cannot take a breath from it. So we're gonna take the time to look at, okay, what thoughts are actually haunting you? Okay, and this thought, how does it make you feel? And how, like, without trying to think too much, where do you think this thought is coming from? What are you really afraid of? So we're gonna, instead of taking this whole huge thing that we can call complex PTSD, CPTSD, is okay, tell me, how does that impact your life, really? Thoughts, flashback, emotion, and we're gonna tackle them one after another. So
Mm.
that after every session, there's already a difference. Yeah, okay, that with this week, after working with MRES, I'm not feeling this anymore, but I still feel that. Okay, that's no problem. Let's look at it one after another.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense because I think when we do get compounded, I call them compound emotions sometimes, one just builds after the other. And it does take time to, I don't like that society tells us to get over things. I can't stand that because it's really not a healthy way to process emotions. But I do feel like when we listen to our emotions, and I've used helpful phrases with people when I coach to say, don't ever say, I am angry or I am sad or I am this or that, because you identify with it in your brain. And your brain consciously starts saying, okay, well, I am angry, so I'm going to be angry. And you're training yourself down that road. Whereas if you say, I feel this way, and what's causing me to feel this emotion, now we get into that place of saying, I can recognize anger, and now this is why anger is starting to happen to me, or why I feel this way constantly. And then to your point, which I love taking it a step further, is getting back to that place of what's the stimuli in my environment right now that's triggering this emotion for me right now? And is this bringing back into a relation of X or Y or Z that happened in the past? I think that's the place where we can get out of that loop a lot and allow
Yeah.
ourselves to breathe and allow ourselves to sit with it and process it.
That's right. Resolve it, right? Like, no one has to carry pain for years. You know, some people come to see me in the last chapter of their life, and what they say is, I want to die in peace. So, okay, what doesn't make you feel at peace right now? Well, I carry this guilt from this relationship I had when I was 20 years old. I carry it's all this stuff we've been carrying on the back. I mean, some people in their 80s are still thinking about things that happened in relationship when they were in their 20s, and they feel guilt and shame that I've been carrying for 60 years. It has an impact. It always has an impact, and all this can be resolved. Like, when again it goes through the body, it's like re-triggering the emotion, and then no breath, nothing, boom, get inside the body. It's important for the brain. So MRS, in a way, it's quite simple. It's being able to feel the interoceptive prediction, everything in the body, without interfering with it, no control, without taking any breath, without changing what's happening in our surrounding, be able to feel the interoceptive prediction in our body as it's changing in us. That's going to take between 2 and 90 seconds. And at the end of the prediction, your brain is expecting to be hit by some kind of danger, just as it happened during a traumatic event. But at the end of a prediction, when you do it with a practitioner, the person is safe and sound. From that very second, the prediction is updated and the emotion will not
Mm.
come back.
Because we've now given the brain an example of what safety looks like. We've now shown it how we worked through that emotion and that we can change the way we feel. And now now we're teaching the brain to reassociate differently and saying that what happened in the past, how we responded in the past, no longer has to be a threat anymore. This thing over here is how we're going to rewire ourselves. And we know that if we face this again, this is our safe place to be in response.
That's absolutely correct. And this happened in a matter of seconds.
That's
The same,
incredible.
in the matter of, it takes, neuroplasticity is absolutely amazing. It happens in a matter of seconds without cognitive understanding or cognitive analyze, right? It happens in a matter of seconds. I often take this example. Let's say that there is a new ice cream store opening down the street in my house, where I live. And I go down to get an ice cream, and I see all those batches of ice cream, but as they just open, there's no label. So there's like a pink ice cream, green ice cream, etc. And I love strawberry ice cream, so I'm gonna go for the pink ice cream. And the person give me a scoop of the pink ice cream, and I go out in the street and I take a little spoon of it, and as I taste it, wow, it tastes like smoked salmon. Now, how many little spoons do you think I need to know forever until I'm proven wrong that this pink ice cream in this specific store is smoked salmon ice cream and not strawberry. It takes 1 second, time for my brain to recognize the taste, and forever until I'm proven wrong. I know that in this store, the pink stuff is smoked salmon and not strawberry. It took me 1 or 2 seconds to update my prediction forever. And because I wasn't overly stressed or in any kind of traumatic situation, this experience, this update of prediction is going to inform my entire life. That means that next time I go into a place and I see something that I think I like, but there is no label, based on what happened this time, I'm going to ask before buying. So that's going to inform my entire life, which is different from something that happened during trauma. What happened was something happened in trauma, during a traumatic event, and we don't process it. It doesn't inform our life. It overwhelms our life with fear.
And I think that's what keeps us caught in those trauma loops for very, very long periods of time. And I think that I've definitely seen people that have gone through trauma and been able to find healing in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And I think a lot of the difference there is just a lot of us never got the tools or the knowledge like you described with us today that we truly can work through these things faster. We oftentimes don't give our body enough credit for what it's actually capable of doing. And we rely too much on, I know a lot of people have used, substance abuse or smoking or drinking or whatever it may be to try to handle emotions. And I've learned from a lot of those people that it'll silence it and tame it down or tone it down for a minute, but it'll come roaring back to the surface because it never actually got seen or heard or understood. And so, if we were to give ourselves more understanding that our body is capable of making these changes, like you've described today, I still can't get over the fact that you said that our brain is consciously scanning the surroundings and processing information, at 150 miles an hour. I mean, that's our brains are doing this without us even thinking. I recently found out, by the way, I was talking to an NLP coach,
Mhm.
and she said, "Do you ever count how many times your lungs breathe in and out every minute?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Do you know how many times your heart beats every second minute?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Your body does. Your body's doing all this stuff for you, autonomously." And so, what if it has the power, by the way, like you brought today, that we have emotions, which are sensations and projections coming out of our brain, and we have the ability to process those, not just get over it and let it go, but process it and understand
Integrate it.
why we feel the way we do.
Yeah. That's right. It's integrating. Yeah, my work, like your work, I think is not cutting emotion left and right. It's integrating, making our life whole. Right. Every time there is a loss, or every time we live a trauma, it's like a part of our life is being stolen from us. No, the idea here is to regroup, reintegrate all this, so it becomes part of life. So we move at the center, at the epicenter of our life constantly, as much as possible.
Well, Cedric, as we wrap up the podcast today, I really just want to say a big, big thank you to you for showing all of us what I don't commonly hear in the grief space, a whole new perspective and a whole new way to understand our emotions, process our emotions, and be kind to ourselves as we walk through this healing path. I think you're offering something that is very, very needed in this world, and your education to people about how to understand our emotions and our sensations, that this big thing up here is projecting stuff that we've got to learn how to observe and respond to in our own way, is such a beautiful gift in the world. So I'm very grateful that you're doing the work that you're doing today.
Well, same to you, Chris, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk to your audience and to you, and all the best to you.
Well, I want to ask you another question as well. I asked all my guests if listeners want to connect with you after listening to this podcast, or if they want to find out if there's an MRES near them, how can they find out that and how can they connect with you?
The best is to go on the website, which is emotionalhealthinstitute.org.
Okay, perfect. I'll go ahead and have that link set up in the bio for you guys so you guys can connect with Cedric after this. Cedric, thanks again so much for a good time. I hope we stay in touch, my friend. I'd love to have
Yeah,
you back for another episode.
I love to. Thank you very much, Chris. All the best, and good luck with the book coming out soon. Huh?
Hey, thank you so much. I'll be sure to send you a copy of that.
Thank you. I
Uh,
love that.
well, I want to thank all of our listeners today for joining Cedric and I on today's episode of the Empowered Grief Journey. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with somebody you know who could benefit from a story. For more episodes that are designed to empower you and support you during your grief journey, visit empowergriefjourney.com and subscribe to this podcast. You can find us on Apple and YouTube. The Empower Grief Journey is all about honoring your journey, embracing your emotions, and finding strength in your own time. I want you to know that you're never alone on this journey, and together we can navigate grief with courage and compassion. Until next time, be kind to yourself and take your grief journey one step at a time.